Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Escapo, the graphic novel by Paul Pope, published in 2000. If you're not familiar with Paul Pope, then you probably don't even read comics, because he's done so much. And starting from a very young age, came up in the 90s, did some self-published graphic novels. We looked at some of his little short stories in Negative Burn, that anthology from Caliber Press in the 90s. And pretty soon he started doing miniseries for DC, Heavy Liquid, 100%, did one trick ripoff for Dark Horse. And all that time, he was working on THB, which was his kind of baby, that's his self-published kind of his thing, even though he kind of abandoned it after a few years. I don't think he's ever gotten back to it either, even though people loved it. And that's where his style really started to get just amazing. And by this point, this is after all the THB stuff, right before the Vertigo stuff came out. So, man, the art in this is fucking gorgeous. It's the story is what it is. It's not a bad story, but nothing to write home to mom about. But man, I just think Paul Pope was one of the great comic book stylists, literally of all time. And believe me, I'm loath to admit it, this guy seems very pleased with himself. And I usually don't like people who are like that. I don't know if I'd like him in person, but man, he backs it up. He backs up his cockiness and his swagger with probably one of the most interesting, unique comic styles out there. Seriously, he's up there with Mignola. He's up there with, dare I say, Hugo Pratt? I just did. So maybe I'm exaggerating, but I just think Paul Pope's amazing, his style. And just really impressed, especially at such a young age. I mean, he really assimilated a lot of, manga, European bande dessinée, and classic stuff like Milton Caniff, comic strips. At a very young age, he kind of fused all of these influences into a very distinctive style. Really nice cover here. Just love this simple design. This is a beautifully designed book, by the way. There's a lot of bells and whistles in here. The graphic novel that comprises Escapo is actually almost overshadowed by some of the introductory material. A nice sketch here. So look, this is so nice. Everything about it. Colors. Logo. Just great design work, great cartooning. I don't know if these are like original covers from when it first appeared, I'm not sure. Or if he just made these for the book. Very kind of elaborate graphic design here. It looks like it's a map and he's pointing to various points of interest, but really it's just telling you when he drew all of the segments of this book. We have the dramatis personae here. Interesting contents page. Kind of annoying and pretentious that it's out of order. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But maybe there's a method to his madness. Oh, that's the order they were drawn. And so we just have this, I don't know what this is from. If he just drew this for the book. It seems to be an ad for paulpope.com. That's what it says at the bottom. But just Paul Pope is always trying out stuff. He's just, at least he was as a youngster. I haven't read much of his stuff except for like Battling Boy, the kids book he did for First Second, which is really fun. I really like that. Just great. This is so nice. So like I said, they really build the suspense to get to Escapo. They just put all of this stuff in the beginning. I guess this was co-designed with Cal Rambler, who did a lot of his THP projects, designed them. The lettering's by Michael Nino, who I guess is a cartoonist in his own right, though I've never seen his work. Just look at this great drawing here. So you can tell just by looking at this guy. He's pretty pleased with himself. Then again, if I look like him, I'd be very pleased with myself too. And if I had his talent, he's a damn good looking man. The funny thing is, well, actually, I'll get to that later. And so we have a little kind of an interview, kind of little character sketch of Paul Pope by this journalist. It's funny, he starts it off with saying, when Paul Pope starts to speak, it is with a confidence that is frankly, immediately off-putting. Sometimes he refers to himself in the third person, a sure sign of arrogance. I don't know. If you don't know Paul Pope, I have to look at this art. I think you'll agree that he's got a right to be cocky. Some nice photos. I guess this writer is named S. Generous. Some stupid pen name. Another seeming ad for paulpope.com. I mean, it's just a great pinup page, graphic design, but there's no real reason for this to be in here. And then he has this kind of, I guess kind of pretentious, but kind of interesting. The design behind THP, Paul Pope and the design container of comics. So he has this whole theory about how comic books are design containers. But we get these great, bizarre little sketches. Apparently Paul Pope is a workaholic, or at least he used to be around this time. And this guy was just constantly drawing, trying out new stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you this page good. So, even before we get to Escapo, this is, I guess, is almost like a short before the film. We have this THB story, The Hidden Face, drawn in '97, but it says the original version appeared in THB in '94. I'm not sure if I've read that. I have some THBs, but it's kind of a fun little story. But, you know, who cares? This art is outstanding. Not much narrative, but of course, I don't think Paul Pope cares about that necessarily. Great establishing shots. It doesn't just tell you, hand it to you on a platter. You kind of got to read the visual clues to see what's going on. This is what I was going to say earlier. So Paul Pope often draws the protagonist as himself, a very cool, good-looking young dude. But it looks just like Paul Pope. So this guy definitely is a pretty confident. Or just a full-blown narcissist. I don't know. I saw him once at a comic convention. I don't think I even talked to him. I just saw him from like 5 feet away. And he was wearing like, if my memory serves correctly, he was wearing some kind of like, I don't know, like feather boa. Not a feather boa, but like something very rock starry. He totally was different than everyone else at Artist Alley. Definitely stood out. We've seen these bug face creatures from THB before. So they barge in on these young lovers who apparently are on the lam. And they're so dumb, these guys, that all he has to do is say, hide your face. Like you can clearly see there's a woman there. They can too, but they can't see her face. They show him a picture, and he's all like, what's this then? The bug guy says that. And the protagonist says, that's her head. Of course it is. Are you sure you haven't seen this face lying around here anywhere? And they're like, ransacking the apartment trying to find this face. They're just really dumb. And then they leave. They give him a card. It's like, if something comes up, give us a call. And they're the young lovers are very happy and laughing at how dumb they are. Just beautiful. I just love this paper even. The printing. It's all around a really nice production. And then back at the precinct, we see the bug face guys, their superiors all like, the face is connected to the head, you fucking morons. If you find the head, the face will be there too. Now go back and get them. And when they get there, of course, they're long gone. The maid is tidying up the room and they're like, drat. And then we see the young lovers somewhere in the desert, just having a nice old time, but still laughing at the nincompoops. Look at this. His fucking colors is gorgeous. So we're still not to Escapo. He's still, they're gilding the lily here for this graphic novel. I think this is just a random page from THB. Oh, this is basically an advertisement. Yeah, I forgot. This is just Paul Pope telling the reader every other thing he's published. These were his earliest graphic novels, The Ballad of Dr. Richardson and Sin Titulo. Titulo. I've never read those. I definitely want to. Though I have seen them, and the art's not nearly as good as he, was capable of just a few years later. So there's a reprise of the cover image, or vice versa. And we finally begin Escapo. It takes place at this circus. That's the milieu of this story. And Escapo, the escape artist, is the narrator here, talking about his parents, how he was conceived. He says his parents didn't even ask if I wanted to be here or be there. See, look at this, just like you can totally see that old classic comic strips, the heavy chiaroscuro slapping down the inks. And it was in this way I made it through my very first escape hatch, Escapo, King of the World. So we already get the impression that Escapo is not going to be much of a happy camper. And here we have a nice title page. Man, I love this band here. It looks like a bunch of Cossacks playing music. Oh, a great page. So now the story finally begins for reals. We see the ringmaster. He's announcing Escapo to the audience. And I guess this is his new trick, his new escape. Pretty interesting letter. Well, definitely interesting, definitely unique. Sometimes lettering this like outlandish is like takes you out of the story, but I was reading this last night. I didn't think about it once. It just totally works for the art. Somehow it blends with the art perfectly. Usually it would take me out of the story, but it didn't. So it seems like a lot of Paul Pope's art is just, I think maybe he gets this from manga. Setting up the scene. It's I guess, what do they call it? Decompressed storytelling, where it's just about, panels and interesting angles. Taking his time, basically. If he feels like a scene is interesting, he'll just take his time. Devote 5 pages to a guy swinging from a chain. Kind of looks like Jack Kirby designed his pants. So this basically this new escape attempt involves the pincer. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. God, I just love all of these panels. And I love this. They have a little breakdown of Le Penseur. We see it's basically this kind of giant robot with all these death traps in its head. It's got a tiger section. And we'll see what that is soon. His bowels are a water trap. And there we see it. So it's got these blades on the top, just grinding. And there's just a tiny hole he has to make sure to get into after he escapes from his chains. And you could tell he's having a great time drawing this. Like, he really thought this pincer through. So, of course, Escapo is king of the world here. So, he seemingly effortlessly is making his way through this giant trap robot. So the tiger thing I was talking about, it's actually a tiger. There's a tiger cage. Man, just it's mostly in shadow. It's such a good tiger. So Escapo uses his straitjacket to cover the lion's face. He escapes. He goes down to the next death trap. This one seems to be more grinding gears. Yeah, definitely the manga influence is apparent. You guys know this. I'm sorry, you guys probably know this, but he actually worked for Kodansha, the giant publisher in Japan, for years, developing manga. I don't think it was ever published, though. So, I mean, he definitely learned manga. I mean, from the masters, you know. Here's the watery bowels. And this one, though, is a lot more challenging. And he basically has to do this combination to escape. And he can't hear the tumblers. He's a master lock breaker, but he can't hear the tumblers with the roaring water, so he's starting to get scared. He's going to drown in there. And then death appears, wading through the water. And he basically says, your time has come. And Escapo kind of bargains with death. And somehow convinces death to let him live a little longer. This death is really frightening. It's a really great design. Kind of looks like some angry Kirby face there. That could be Orion from the New Gods. So first, Death is saying he won't help him. He's just like, I'm not a gambler. I don't make deals, but then he does. And he even gives him the combination. But he tells him, though, he says, take this gold coin and keep it with you. It will protect you until I return for it and for you. And so he escapes it. He escapes the Le Penseur. And everyone applauds. Man, nobody tells a story like Paul Poop. So, unfortunately, though, this whole incident, even though he survived, it's made him lose his nerve. And he's been canceling performances, saying he's sick. Really, he's just scared of dying. Of course, all the roustabouts are talking about it. So his trainer, who's his close friend, and he basically says, listen, they're going to shit can you if you got to do at least 5 performances a month. Let's do a real easy one of your old mainstays. And the trainer tells him is like, the escape artist, his main job is to make it look effortless. He's still totally scared, terrified about doing this trick, even though it's some trick he's done many times before. So it's the big night. And I guess this one is called The Box. Just a weird angle there. The designs he makes for these escape things are just insane. He's kind of dilly-dallying, getting to his performance. So I guess this box is full of blades. The ringmaster says edges, a cacophony of edges. And even though this is the trick he's done 100 times before, since he was a kid, he can't stop thinking about dying. He's trying to psych himself up, but it's not working. And of course, it's making him worse at his job because he's distracted by this fear. And he's making dumb mistakes. And then he actually does slip up. Look at this thing. It's silly. And he's basically hanging from the thing by his foot. And the trick is not supposed to go that way. In fact, everyone's saying, is this in the act? What's he doing up there? And the trainer's worried. His buddy's worried. He's yelling up to him. Escapo thinks to himself, it could all go a million different directions right now. He rips off his death face mask. And he takes that coin. I guess he had it up his sleeve. And this is the coin that death gave him. And he vows, he says, someday a trap will get me, but it's not going to be tonight. And he flicks the coin. I guess it's almost like a get out of jail free pass. And he succeeds. The crowd goes wild. And so now I guess this is like almost a different chapter. And I don't know why this page has this terrible typeset lettering. This definitely jarred me out of the comic. I was like, what the fuck is this? Luckily, it's only this page. I don't get it. It looks terrible. I don't know why he just did it for one page. So this is obviously sometime later. Escapo's trying a new trick. And he notices Arabella, or the trapeze artist, who's hanging out with the trapeze master. He's like the star of the show. And Escapo's totally in love with her. Look at this thing. That's another one of the traps. That thing is just so, just great, but it's ridiculous. So now we have kind of another title page. I guess this is another chapter. That was a little interlude. Another kind of title page. I didn't mention that this is subtitled A Reverse Tragedy. So once again, the ringmaster is announcing Escapo. I'm sorry, he's announcing Arabella. And Pulpo was kind of known for this. All of his girls in his comics, they look like they're 14 years old. I guess it's not famous, maybe infamous. Maybe 16 years old, but whatever. They look suspiciously not barely legal. They're nearly legal. So now Escapo's, it's his turn in the spotlight. And this is another escape trick. Basically, this giant Buick is suspended over him. And Escapo's in a chair, and he's got to escape before the Buick crushes him. A lot less elaborate than the Pinsewer. So once again, he triumphs, and he walks back to his tent. He's talking to his trainer about his crush on Arabella. He's really gaga over her, the way he's talking about her. He says he feels like a 14-year-old boy. Then you'll be perfectly age appropriate for that, for Arabella. The clowns are totally making fun of him. They're basically just saying, are you serious? Why the hell would that girl ever shower any attention on your ugly mug? And they're putting the thought in his head that, like, you know, obviously she likes the Acrobat King. That was the guy from that first page. I guess the Acrobat King is good looking. And he's a real gentleman. He's a real catch. His clowns are really cruel to him. I like that lettering there, that haha. It looks like Arabic or something. So that night, Escapo goes out to Arabella's little cabin. And he's just kind of watching her from afar. At first. And then he picks up a pebble and throws it at her window to get her attention. She looks out the window and she sees him just creeping behind this tree. Somehow she's not just like, get the fuck out of here. I think they've talked before maybe about this. That's why she's prepared. This is just, I don't know, that just is wonderful to me. Just the economy of, well, I don't know if the economy of line's the right word, because there are all these crazy scratches. When you look so closely at some of this stuff, it's like, that shouldn't work. But it totally does. These crazy trees here. So he comes out behind the tree and says, it's me, it's Vic. She's got this cute little pet monkey. He says, did you read my letter? I guess he sent her a love letter. He says, what is your answer? She says, I don't have an answer for you tonight. I need more time. Go away, I'll tell you in the morning. I like her face is totally in shadow, so you can't even read her emotion. But it doesn't sound good for poor Escapo. He says, signal me in the morning. Right before I'll perform, I'll look over at you. A white scarf means yes, and a black one means no. And she says, okay, I'll signal you then. Now go to bed. So he walks away, and he's having this conversation in his head with his mother, or just he says, Mother, I finally found someone who's for me. She's everything I could have ever asked for. I wish you could see her. She's beautiful. Really interesting page. I really like the way he draws this monkey. So the next day, Arabella's talking to the Acrobat King, who looks just like Paul Pope. And he says, want to come watch Escapo's water trap with me? It seems like the Acrobat King is kind of a fan of Escapo. He likes catching his act. She says, no, I'll stay here. But then he convinces her to go. Once again, the ringmaster is announcing Escapo. You notice how the ringmaster, the lettering is all huge because, his voice is booming. And kind of it's more idiosyncratic, the lettering. Because, ringmasters kind of talk in that old-timey cadence. This trap is called the Water Womb. And they pull the curtain off of it, and it's that weird contraption we saw earlier. And Escapo comes out. He's not wearing his mask. Sorry, this thing makes me laugh. It's such a funny design. So all he can think about is that he doesn't see Arabella. He's looking in the crowd, and finally he sees her. And she's with the Acrobat King, which doesn't make him happy. And she's wearing no scarf at all. Nice. So he's taken too long, and everyone's starting to get worried. And then while he's escaping his straitjacket, he thinks to himself, oh, she's not worth it. I guess he figures he's already lost to the Acrobat King. And he makes it out of the water room. Look at this panel. This is all like Munoz. Just really just great slapping down of ink on that panel. Almost abstract. And he's happy he's alive. And we see Arabella's face and can't even really read. And obviously she's not in love with them. But is it anger or sadness? I don't know. Unreadable expression. And everyone carries off Escapo. God, look at this. If you just look closely, this crowd is amazing. Just a few flicks of his brush. A really well delineated crowd. But when you look at it, it's so simple. And that's it for Escapo. And here's a nice rough sketch. Like I said, well-designed, very well-designed book. It's just a beautiful, nice little production. This is from Paul Pope's own publishing house, Horse Press, I think it's called. And so, I mean, this is just him. And, you know, that with help from a few friends, but really holds up to any, like, big comic company production, you know. So there you have it, guys. Escapo by Paul Pope. I've got a lot of Paul Pope, and I guess I'll space it out, but I definitely want to look at more of his stuff. It's all this beautiful. Well, not all of it, but some of it's even more beautiful and more interesting, the art style. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.